Morning, Soundhouse. Good to see you guys. Well, I can't see you, but you can see me. So there's that. Hope you guys are well. We have two special guests this morning. Kim is here this morning, who you know and love. And then, of course, Donkey is joining us too. And we wanted to talk this morning about generosity. In fact, I was reading the Bible and I came across Psalm 41, which opens with, "Blessed are those who have regard for the poor. The Lord delivers them in times of trouble." And the Psalms and Proverbs often talk about people who have a generous heart. So Kim, how would you define having a generous heart, and what are your thoughts on generosity in our faith?
I think that part of being generous is the idea of thinking of others before yourself. And you can be generous with many things in many ways, and the smallest ways, the biggest ways. I think that it's not fully defined as this one aspect, but it's just an idea of care and using the things you have and sacrificing them for others.
Yeah, well, usually when people say describe somebody as generous, they're usually talking about money.
Yeah.
You think generosity is, you talked about stuff that we might have. So you think that there's other ways we could be generous than just having money and giving that?
Yeah, for sure. I think that one way to be generous that affects in huge ways is your time.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is so valuable for people, is their time. And so to be able to, sacrifice that, to love on someone in little ways, like sending a text or writing a letter or whatever, that's a way of being generous, I think.
No, that's really good. And those things often, you don't realize how impactful they could be to the person that you're giving them to. For me, I've had a lot of generous people in my life. I would love to hear if you've had any experiences, but one of the most generous people was my youth pastor. I didn't realize at the time, but just how much time he invested in me.
Yeah.
He would pick me up from school. Sometimes we would hang out. He would just constantly, he didn't have a lot of money, he didn't have a lot of stuff, but he did have encouragement, and he did have his time. And so that's someone who changed my life, is just being generous with what they have. Have you ever had anyone who is generous to you in your life?
Yeah, I've had plenty of people who have been generous specifically to me. I think that one thing that affects me a lot is seeing people be generous to people that they don't know. And this past week, even my brother-in-law and my sister were driving down the road. They saw a kid on the side. His wheel had popped off of his car, and they did a U-turn, and all their generosity was literally stopping and offering help. Came to find out that this kid had been in foster care his entire life, was living in a van, and it opened up an opportunity to be even more generous. Texted friends, got him gift cards, was able to pay for his tire to be fixed. All these ways that it opened up these avenues to where they could show generosity in other ways. So just listening to that small voice of the small things can then snowball into something greater.
Yeah, I like that example too, because sometimes I feel like whenever we're driving, or maybe you're at school or wherever, you just assume someone else is going to do it.
Yeah.
And so I've been driving before, and I might see someone, I'm like, oh, someone else is going to stop, or they probably called someone, but you have no clue. And in this situation, that kid didn't have anybody else, and it took your family to stop. So I think that's a really, really good example of just being generous. I was also going to add, there's a story in the Gospel of Luke where all of these people are giving their offerings, and all of these rich people are bringing lots of things, and then this poor widow shows up, and she barely has anything, and she lays 2 very small copper coins, it says, and everyone's kind of making fun of her at the time. But I love Jesus's response. He says, "Truly I tell you, this poor widow has put more than all the others down." And so the reason I bring this up is a lot of us right now, a lot of our teens probably, they don't have a lot of money to give. like what encouragement would you have for somebody who might say like, hey, I can't even drive. How am I going to pull over at the side of the road? I don't even have a lot of money to give. What could I possibly be doing?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it all it is a text message. It's just intentionality with your time, with your efforts. That's all it takes is for you to take a moment and stop thinking about yourself and turn that into wanting something better for someone else.
Yeah.
And so, I think that one way that my friends have been generous to me is literally just checking in not like a, hey, how are you sort of surfacey way, but like, hey, how are you doing? Asking that second question of like follow up.
Yeah.
I think that's like literally all it really takes. Like, so they can be like the smallest things.
Yeah.
That can make a big impact.
Yeah. And would you say it's easier or harder right now, like during this time of everything happening with the coronavirus and quarantine and all of that? Is it easier or harder to be generous?
I think it's both.
Okay, yeah.
I think it can be harder to do that with a stranger because of maybe some fear that people might have.
Sure.
But I think it can be easier with your friends because everybody's desperate right now for some sort of connection. And so that text message, that letter, that phone call can mean so much. And it's easy. You've got time, I've got time. Like, like why not use it to bless somebody else?
No, I love that. And I like that you mentioned, being generous with how we spend our time and specifically a text or a phone call. Like, I think of times in my life where I've just felt really lonely or really bored or like no one was there for me. And once in a while, like my phone would ding or somebody would call and it wouldn't mean the world. And they had no clue. They were just saying what's up and checking in. But like, a phone call to a lonely person is really powerful. So I love that you mentioned that as an example too. Do you have any homework for us as far as generosity? What we, the teens as well as me and the other leaders, how we could be generous this week?
Yeah, I mean today's Mother's Day.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
So
Happy Mother's Day.
Maybe fold the laundry for your mom.
Okay.
Maybe just think of her. Like, what is she doing on a daily basis that you could take off her hands?
That's good.
Another thing is just, use your phone to connect with somebody that you haven't been connecting with. I think is one that I would challenge everyone to.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's great. And I would add, make a game out of it. See how many people you could encourage. Like, dedicate the next half an hour to just going through your phone and trying to start conversations or encourage. If you want to go further than that, that's awesome. Like, keep it going for sure, but it's got to start small and start somewhere. So use your phone. I mean, it could be a huge distraction or it could be a really big blessing, depending on how we look at it. Any other thoughts on generosity? Nope. Okay, you said it all. I want to thank you for your generosity, being in this video, spending time with us, and for all that you do with the youth group. It means a lot to us. We're thankful for Kim and the rest of our leaders. So thank you very much. And we will see you guys on Wednesday nights. Have a good day. Bye.